much. There you go. So, all right, we'll go ahead and get going. Just that way, you're not spending your whole evening there at the City Hall. Actually nice now that the wind came through. So we just kind of want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on at Inkster Park and actually through the whole Lower Rouge kind of corridor between what's in Inkster and the neighboring communities as well. Here from John from Wayne County here at the end. But we've been fortunate enough to be able to get some money, so figured tell you what's going on and get your input. And the survey really helps because not only what we're going to talk about is stuff that's happening now, but part of what the county and the city are trying to do is also see how all of it integrates with things down the road and what you all as citizens are interested in, so that those become more the high priority. Maybe a lot of things on the list, but it's like, oh, if everybody wants X, then let's try to get X first before we do something else. So that's part of the reason for all that. But there's an interesting way we have gotten here, and most people don't know that the Rouge watershed, the entire watershed, so from all the way up in Birmingham, all the way down through Romulus and out to Canton and down into Dearborn, doesn't go on, well, part of Detroit is part of the Rouge watershed, but is like 470 square miles is what's considered what they call an area of concern. And that sounds ominous type thing, but back in the 87, the US and Canada kind of got together and said, hey, in the Great Lakes, we've got these areas that are a little bit worse off than their neighbors. It doesn't mean, it's, the worst place to be or it's really bad. It's just, it's not as good as the neighboring, watersheds or rivers or bays. So they ended up finding what was 43, I believe it was, 41, 43, something like that, these areas concerned. Obviously, Michigan had the most just because Michigan is on all the Great Lakes. And then at that point in time, it was like, okay, let's start developing some plans to get them to be like their neighbors, or at least as good. So when we talk about what we're going to do on the restoration and then some of the amenity things, it's getting it so that the Rouge watershed won't be fully restored to the the 1700s because it's a big urban. There's too many roads and the such around, but we want it to at least be able to be a functional, river system and someplace that, as we say, you don't have to drive all the way up north to get get nature when we have abundance of it in the county park system, and the city park system. So let's use what we have here so that everybody has the chance to experience that. So in 2010 there was this at that time Senator Stabenow, who's recently retired last year, helped author what's called the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. It was a congressional bipartisan, so it's supported by both the R's and the D's. It's supported not only by the Great Lakes region, but by the other regions of the country as well, to help restore the Great Lakes as a whole and to put some money from the federal government into things. And on average, it's probably been somewhere between 300 and say 500 million in the budgets each year. There's my good friend, Jerome. Sorry. Jerome, if you've never met Jerome, Jerome's a great guy. Yeah, here he comes. I had to stop because I said, that's my good friend, Jerome.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, now.
So let's see. Oh, yeah, money. So Congress annually appropriates, this money that goes to the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and a lot of it goes to some of it goes to cleaning up sediments in some of the harbors and the bays that we've had industrial stuff over, for quite a while, and some of the discharges have made, the sediments a little polluted, which makes it bad for the fish and whatnot. So a lot of it goes to that, and a lot of the other stuff goes to what's been habitat restoration, creating new habitat, restoring habitat within these areas. And in the Rouge in particular, the Alliance of Rouge Communities, which is Jerome represents Inkster at the Alliance of Rouge Communities. And that is the 33 communities within the Rouge watershed, the 3 counties, the 3 universities, and the airport authority. So they're all working together collaboratively to advance stormwater pollution in the river, but also habitat restoration. And so since 2010, the ARC's probably did about 30 million plus in restoration within the watershed, which is, we've been very fortunate. And this kind of gives you an idea of where all the projects have been done throughout the watershed. You can see there's a cluster, down in Inkster. There's been about 4 or 5 different projects here in Inkster and on the lower of different varieties. And one of the recent ones that was completed was at Colonial Park. So a lot of it was taking the open space that was just overgrown grass and was, at times getting mowed or not getting mowed, and converting it to natural prairies that allow for, bugs and bunnies, as I like to say. I'm an engineer, so it's bugs and bunnies and plants to thrive in that and create some habitat, and to allow for some more of the water storage and filter the water before it gets into the river. So we were able to, I think we completed this one last year, so 2024. And as you can see, it was about 10 acres of habitat was created out there, and some of the spoils that were used were moved over and helped raise up the athletic field a little bit more, so it wouldn't be as wet as often. Still not perfect, but it at least allows it to be drier a little bit more, so that the community can use it more often. So we were lucky with that. And then one of the other big ones that we said was, all right, Inkster Park also has some of the similar things that Koinos has, some open spaces that don't get mowed as often and can be converted into natural areas. And can we then get it so that people can interact? So we were lucky enough, the ARC in 21, to get a design grant to design the habitat out at Inkster Park that we'll talk about here, that's actually going to be starting next spring. And then that next grant, the implementation grant. So the ARC was able to get $3.5 million to build this habitat all throughout Inkster Park, which will start next spring out there. And on top of it, EPA was looking at ways. One of the things we like about, there's difference between doing habitat restoration in, I'll say Alaska. There isn't as many people around, or even out here in Michigan and some of the other parts of Michigan where there isn't a big concentration of people. But in urban settings, we want to be able to interact with it, and we want people that live in the communities to be able to interact with the habitat, because in our minds, and it's been proven over and over again, if you guys are able to interact with it and get the enjoyment of, it's like everybody says, hey, taking a walk in nature, brings your tension down, just helps you relax and stuff. You start feeling that, you take pride and ownership of that, and are more willing to, say, yeah, let's do more of this. Let's do these types of things. I want to take my family out and have a picnic out there and, experience, nature. I don't have to drive up north. I don't have to drive, someplace else. I can get that interaction. And so EPA asked us, and Wayne County and the city had already done some preliminary master planning from conversations they've had with the citizens, over the last 10 years. And there was kind of these initial 4 elements that kind of came out. And that was to create some trails in and amongst the habitat, so you can go for that walk and just kind of relax and, see, along with some boardwalks. You'll see a pedestrian bike bridge. There's the old bridge that connects I'll say the main side by the comfort station to the north side that's been blockaded and can't be used. So we're looking at trying to do something with that, and not for vehicles, but basically so that pedestrians and bikes can be able to cross over along that line. And then having some kayak launches and have the ability to get on the river and interact. And then some public and fishing access. And you can see over here on the side, that's kind of an example. And Jason will talk a little bit later about what it looks like now but that's kind of what we're thinking, just, as an initial. That would be right there off the parking lot by the comfort station so that you'd be able to park and then just kind of either, sit there and look at the river or fish off of that if you wanted to. So right now we've got the design grant. And this is the part where I put all the, on all those commercials where they at the end, it's like, oh, this drug's great. You can't do that. Yeah. Oh, don't do this, don't do that, can't do that, don't sue us. Do this. Yeah. This is the part where I say, this is the design, they're paying for the design. That isn't a guarantee that they're going to give us the money to build it. And right now, as many people know, the federal budgets are a little bit different these days than what they were the last few years. So with that in mind, part of what is happening with EPA is they are having to focus a lot more on the actual physical habitat stuff and not as much on the amenities. But they have told us that, it's one of those of, yes, they still like the idea if they happen to have extra money. So I equate it to if they basically, find money at the bottom in the back of the car in the back seat, and there's a couple extra quarters there, then we'll be able to get that. But the other thing that it allows us to do, us meaning Wayne County, the city, is we now have these designs when this grant's done, and we can now look for funding in other ways. The state of Michigan has a Parks Trust Fund grant, so you can apply for projects under that. So the nice thing is it isn't like, oh, we're going to do this and we're not going to do anything with it. We're going to use this to be able to go and at the end, whether it's next year or the year after or sometime here, you find the money to be able to build these things and install them. That's kind of how all this, so, at Inkster Park, you're looking at, right now, what is that? Almost $4.5 million that is getting invested, physically 3.5, but the other part is at least setting it up for the future on what may able to be done for people to be able to interact with the habitat. So, and then, so on this one, just the standard, who's all who doing what. Obviously EPA is funding it, and we talked about the Alliance of Rouge Communities. Wayne County is the landowner of the Inkster Park, along with Colonial. Obviously, working with the city and Jerome, especially, how long have we been working together? 30 years? Something like that. He keeps trying to retire and can't, he comes back and, and then what's called the Rouge River Advisory Council. It's a local citizen group that helps, just kind of see what's going on within the Rouge as an AOC and making sure that the citizen voice is being heard when the state or EPA wants to do something. So that's what that is. And then Friends of the Rouge, many of you know, is the local nonprofit that does a lot of work, particularly on the trail, the water trail and other things along the lower Rouge, in addition to a lot of other things throughout throughout the watershed. So as I said, habitat restoration was the original focus. The yellow is kind of what there's a lot of invasive, so a lot of plants that shouldn't be there. So that's what we're going to go in is kind of remove that and create some prairie systems in those areas. The top yellow area is kind of the forested area. So it's going to go in and it'll end up looking more open because a lot of that type of invasive stuff makes it so it's kind of like walking through a jungle. And it's the low stuff and just, vines and stuff all over. So the idea is to clear that out so that, the trees are the trees and you'd be able to kind of walk in and amongst, the natural system of the trees. And then the pink areas are kind of wetland systems that will get developed. And then the blue area is, there's actually a stream that runs through there, more or less kind of drains the big open field when there's a lot of water and then heads up to the river. So that is going to be all the habitat. So what we were looking at when we were doing the habitat was Wayne County and already had a master plan kind of for Inkster Park, is to make sure the integration of the habitat didn't interfere with that, and that you had very distinct areas that this is habitat, this is where I can go and experience it, and this is my go play on the basketball court. So there was some distinct areas that as you go out there, you kind of know where you can go hang out, and and there's some natural areas that we want kind of to stay natural, and just hopefully people don't go pitching a tent and trying to get on Survivor. And you laugh.
I know it's true.
Yeah, you're right. I was doing a job in Southfield, and it was doing a lake with a big forested area next to it. And we kept going in, and it's like, we'd see like this campsite, set up, and we're like going, what the heck? But there was nobody there. And come to find out, we ended up finally, the police and us finally were there one time and so, well, it was a guy who was filming himself as an audition tape for Survivor. He was leaving and going to work and then coming back and living in the park in the natural. So, you never know what you're going to find and what people, but we're like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, here's my Survivor audition tape. And we're like, seriously? He's like, yeah. So like we talked about, the design elements is what we're working on now. The proposed trail bridge up at the top, the kayak launch, the public access, and then the trail system. This was an early sketch. You'll see as we go through when we actually applied for the grants to get it. We've integrated it a little bit more, and there's actually a much bigger boardwalk system at the south end. But the bridge piece, as it turns out, we've been having to figure things out, just learned it's a historic bridge. I guess it was built in the early 1900s, and is a very distinct style or something like that. And because we were planning on taking it down and putting a new thing in, well, now we've had to pivot because it's historic. So we're looking at refurbishing it as the plan, particularly since we don't have to have it. Back then, it was actually used for cars to cross the river at that point before. Is that Henry Ruff? Is that on that side? John Daly, yeah. Before Daly was in, so that was one of the main routes.
That's what I was trying to see. What is that street?
John Daly's on the far right,
And then that.
and that's the river.
The ballers are down there, right behind the CSO basin.
No, that one's over there. This is the comfort station's right here, right? Yeah.
Yes, CSO basin.
So.
CSO is on, here's the Rouge River, is this
Right.
river here. The CSO is over here, is off this side.
But there's a bridge. There's a bridge there too.
And the bridge right here, this is the bridge right here.
Right.
That takes from the drive that comes down from the CSO,
Right.
the drive that goes all the way back. There's a few parking spots, all the boulders that are lined up right there.
Right.
That bridge will take you over. That bridge exists, that bridge is fine. Shelter, playground, comfort station.
Right.
The spur that goes off to the north to the bigger portion of
Where it's blocked off at?
where it's
Yeah.
blocked off. This
Yeah.
bridge is blocked off. It's locked off. There's barricades here, and then there's barricades at the bridge.
So that's the one closer to John Daly.
Closer to John. And then there is the transfer station.
No, that's we tore down.
Oh, it's okay. Or is that what it is? A transfer? Something.
Can I take a picture of that?
Yeah.
I'm always
You
getting.
tell her that station.
I was gonna say, I should bring it up.
It's on John Daly.
I can't see.
Yeah. We'll actually we'll
It is abandoned.
probably we'll get this whole presentation and
Email it.
Herman's got your email there, so we'll send it to you. That way you can
Yeah, I can see it.
See it and, yeah, share it amongst friends at tea.
Yeah, sure.
The next one too, you may be interested in, is
Yeah.
vendor version.
We never did.
So that,
Okay.
that gives you a bit more.
Gives you a bit of it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, them are,
Yeah, on the other side, there's a plan.
Yeah, the bigger, John will talk about the whole linkage here in a minute, so. I don't know how all this stuff fits together, it's not what I do for a living, so I had Jason kind of talk about how people interact with stuff. I just build things. Actually, they all just laugh, they tell me I just wave my hands a lot, and then they do it.
Yeah, thanks, John. John's an engineer, I'm a landscape architect, so the birds and the bunnies might be more in my court, but I'm just gonna walk us through the elements that are in the plan right now, so you guys can get oriented. But certainly stop me if you have questions. So we're looking at the same view we were on the last plan. The Rouge River should be a little more obvious on this one. I don't know if this pointer is working.
It's there, but
Is it there?
I couldn't
Well,
find it.
then no worries. The advances work. Oh, I don't want to hit anybody with the laser. But you can see the Rouge River. Oh, there it is. It's a cursor. Is that me? It is. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, so we have the Rouge River, the bridge crossing that we were just talking about to orient you. The shelter up here and the comfort station, playground, those will remain. Everything in color are the things that we're looking at adding or modifying. So this parking lot is a new configuration. So we're going to walk through an enlargement of this, and I'll blow up each area so that you can consider what's happening. But this is where we're improving for river access, and we'll look at that along with the parking lot. We have the athletic fields over here, which will remain as athletic fields, but like with the other park John was talking about, we'll use some of the soil material that we excavate for our wetland habitats and raise the fields so that they're drier for athletic use. We'll also take a look at the trail that's moving through. And then there's some feature on the south side that will show you that offer access to the roadway there. So the first area we'll zoom in on is that river access. And this is an enlargement. The image on that board just to the left is this same area right here. So it shows you what we intend to do. That section of the river is deeply cut from excessive flows through the river and the fact that the bank is not well stabilized, so it's deeply incised and we're losing a lot of soil there. So we need to stabilize that bank, and there are a number of ways we could do it. Since we want to allow people to access the river, we're going to be stacking ledge stone, like in that photograph.
Big slabs.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
very big slabs. So you'll actually be able to step down to the water. And so it's accomplishing a number of things. It's reinforcing the bank so that it's resistant to those heavy flows during peak rain events, but it's also permitting access, and it's doing it in a natural way so it won't look out of place along the river edge. The parking lot will be expanded and will be an easier turnaround here, and we'll have a number of pathways leading to the existing bridge and our new fishing and river access. There'll be a couple of terraces that offer overlooks, places to view the river from that are a little more accessible, and places where people can picnic. There'll be grass areas behind where people can picnic, but then between the rocks and along the river's edge, we'll be restoring that with native vegetation. So if you saw the slide at the start of this presentation, wildflowers, things that attract birds and butterflies. There'll be an improved kayak launch here. So this will be accessible. So it's a pretty advanced kayak launch that ramps down into the water. In order to do that, we'll be excavating a little part of the bank to expand the the river there so that you can actually get in calm waters. And there'll be a kayak storage area up at this point, along with a kiosk that informs users how to access the launch.
Is that off of, what street is it off? Is that West King?
That's the bridge that we were talking about that comes from the CSO.
Okay.
So we're,
That's the main parking lot. The parking lot is where the main parking
Parking
lot
lot to come off of John Daly.
is.
John, yeah, not just the, not over, this is, yeah, all at Inkster Park.
strange. Here's John Daly, right there.
Okay.
Okay.
You were saying kiosk,
Yes.
so does that mean there wouldn't have to be people there for you to kayak? You just rent them from the kiosk or what?
John, we have a question about the kiosk. Do you recall what PEA's kiosk?
I was asking, does that mean a person would have to be there or you just use the kiosk?
No, so, Jason was talking about a really cool option with credit cards and, you know, you open up and there'd always be kayaks there. Found of this group or run surveys, if people would get really excited and want to use this all the time, that's definitely a level where this could go. Currently, the kiosk term, it's a rack. Maybe I shouldn't downplay it that much, but it is, if you're able to drop off in the parking lot there, take your boat off your car or your trailer, or if there's a vendor service or, you know, a boat
A livery.
livery or, so that they had a trailer, you know, with a bunch of boats, they could put those, there's like 6 on you can store 6 boats, canoes or kayaks on one rack or kiosk.
Oh, that's what he's calling a kiosk.
Yeah, so,
A big
or actually that could be the informational side, that could be more maps, I'm sorry.
There's the rack and,
Yes, so
yeah.
there's a kiosk that's actually informational.
Learn from.
So these are all the things that are gonna be here. There's a rack that can hold your
Well, that's
phones,
nice.
and then there's a kiosk that would have information, maps for the Lower Rouge Greenway, as long as the Lower Rouge Water Trail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've got the trailhead for our trail, which you'll see on the next slide. So a lot's going on in here, and this whole section, this outer edge on this outer curve, will be repaired, reinforced. You'll have much better views to the water. It'll be much more open than it is now, so it'll be an enjoyable place to visit. We have this, but it seems kind of silly now that we have this slide and we've got our board right there, but that's the existing condition you can see here. Very deeply in size, a lot of erosion happening here, which is sending sediment into the Rouge, adding to the pollutants. So this restoration will be important for the water quality, but also for public access. We're now going to look at the features of the trail, which is pretty much most of the park in here. And I'll point out some of the things we're doing. We're going to retain the turf grass for the athletic field up here, so there'll still be a lot of usable recreational space where you can get out on lawn. We're going to raise it though so that it's drier during rain events, many rain events. It'll be separated from our naturalized areas with clever little log barriers. We're going to reuse some of the invasive plant material that we pull down and reuse it so we don't have to discard it somewhere else. It's a natural element, but it'll also provide a nice little border between the manicured turf grass and the naturalized area so people will understand, and also it'll help with maintenance crews.
So, excuse me, when you're going to this athletic field, is that where the old baseball field is?
I believe so. John?
Yes, there's a sign there. Right?
Yes.
I'm just,
Yep.
I'm here, I'm surprised that wasn't my car in the picture. Because I'm here like all the time, I've been waiting on this. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. I mean, it could be so nice.
Yeah, and this work all throughout, if you remember John's graphic with all the yellow, that's a significant amount of work to remove all of that invasive plant material. And I think you'll really be pleased at how much that opens up views through the park, which are important both for the habitat. We can't get healthy native understory plants to grow if they're being choked out by shrubs, but also really helpful for safety. But for being able to visit the park and, you know,
And
feel
go through
safe.
those trails, yeah.
And go through the
Right
trails.
now, you'll be like,
Yeah, exactly. So this trail is actually necessary for a lot of our restoration work. They're gonna need to bring in equipment to get some of the trees down and the vegetation removed. So we're gonna adapt that same access route as a permanent half-mile trail. And it'll be a generous trail. It's gonna be 10 feet wide, so you can walk down it and people can jog past you or bike past you, and you're not gonna feel like, you know, you're getting pushed off the path.
That's a good point for everybody is, even under the habitat work, there will be this, I'll say we don't call it a trail because we can't pay for trails under habitat, but that there, but it won't be paved, it'll be a limestone, you know, path, it'll be kind of a natural type thing. That, because we need, as Jason said, we need to have access in, so instead of paying to fill the access in and then paying to have it taken out, EPA lets us leave it because it's cheaper, right?
Makes sense.
So we tend to put a little wiggles in them here and there to make them fit the site, but regardless of what happens with the final amenities and when we get funding down the road for those, there will be, as we build the habitat over the next year and a half.
So the trails will be like a first drag, from the first to do, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so they'll kind of get put in relatively so that the contractor can kind of come in and do their work, and then as they leave, then they just leave them in place, and then they become community trails at that point in time.
And they'll be slightly regraded so that they are relatively high next to the surrounding landscape, so they should stay drier than many of the areas that are there right now. We will also be adding habitat by creating wetland environments, so by excavating relatively shallow, 1 or 2 foot deep across a large area. But that'll be suitable for a lot of native wetland vegetation, which will, you know, add a lot of habitat value, be great habitat for birds, butterflies, bees, pollinators. So it should be very enjoyable to walk through, and if you're into birds, you're into butterflies, and who isn't, great place to visit. Along the pathway, we'll also have opportunities for picnicking. There'll be a little bump out of lawn area. This one's located underneath some very large mature cottonwood trees, so it'll be a nice shady spot to stop. And there is an existing low area down in this corner, a boardwalk to elevate over that to keep the pathway out of the water. This is actually there is existing wetland habitat throughout the park that we need to minimize disruptions to. In addition to all of these people features, there'll be elements for animals, for flora and fauna. We'll have bat houses, rock piles, log piles. So these are things, and bats are good. You guys know bats are good, right? They keep down the mosquitoes. Like one bat eats a crazy amount of mosquitoes a day. So yeah, we want to encourage those animals to continue to live at Inkster Park. And these little features we'll use with material we're already collecting from the removals and make habitat suitable for them. They're not going to be next to our gathering spaces. They're going to be off in the prairie. You'll have to go hunting for them if you really are interested in seeing them. So, but they're there. Some of the work we're doing. We're now going to look at the very south end. This is off the screen, but hopefully this next. Here we go. This is that south edge. Here's that boardwalk we were just talking about. In addition to this boardwalk and trail system, we're looking at providing ramped access back up to South River Drive in 2 locations so that the park is better connected to the community. We have a zigzag boardwalk here. It's about a 6-foot drop so that That ramp is accessible. It's a very shallow ramp, but a person utilizing a wheelchair could get up and down there easily. We're going to do the same thing over here. This one also is going to have a set of stairs to make access a little quicker. We've got about an 11-foot drop here, so it's a little longer of a ramp. Additionally, there'll be a boardwalk that we're looking at. That's a very large boardwalk all along the road here with bump outs that will look out over the park. So little gathering spaces along the street to really activate the street, bring people from the street level into the park. Maybe you want to enjoy the view and the river, but you don't want to go down the ramp and find a spot to hang out down here. You just want to enjoy it from the road. This will allow you to do that.
Did you design this?
We did.
That's
Yes.
a good thought.
With the boardwalk.
Yeah, because
That's John. That's
No,
John.
I just meant the whole thing. I
Oh,
like
okay.
the boardwalk is like a good bus. You
Yeah,
don't want to go down there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And with the vegetation kind of being thinned out, with all of the invasive plants being removed, you'll have better sight lines. People want to see the river, you know, and so restoring
Yeah, and
it.
in your community, and
I
it's like, and for a lot of people, it's hidden, so.
I love it.
Those were all the remarks I wanted to mention. I'm going to ask John to finish up. Cool.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I might just walk over and start pointing at stuff.
You're not changing the slide, so you could just stand in front of it and point, and it'd probably be easier.
Yeah, so this is, well, obviously, Jason did a great job zooming in to all the tighter areas within the park itself. The park that we were just talking about, Inkster Park, this is Inkster Park. This is, oh, Jerome didn't come back. This is the CSO that we're trying to orient ourselves with here. Sorry, what was it?
Inkster Road.
Oh, yep, so Inkster Road is right here, Colonial Park here, Inkster Park here, John Daly, your access into the park. So everything that we were just looking at was pretty much in that window right there. So this, we're zooming out, taking a look at the entire Lower Rouge from Dearborn Heights. Is this little bit here, and then Dearborn, it might be the golf course, the Dearborn Players Club. I think that, but that is still part of the Lower Rouge Greenway plan, that we do want a Lower Rouge, so similar to Hines, and just to zoom out a little bit more, and John had some good, like, you know, Hines Drive, the Middle Rouge River, branch of the Rouge River, is on Hines Drive. The Lower Rouge is Michigan Avenue for the most part, but we don't have a drive, a parkway drive that goes through there. What we are working on is a parkway, pedestrian, multi-use asphalt path that goes the whole way. Inkster has been doing a great job. They've been applying for TAP grants. That's the Transportation Alternative Program with the state of Michigan. So there's state money out there to get multi-use, to get people that don't want to get in their car and go on Michigan Avenue. This could be a very nice corridor where people can bike to work, to their neighbors, to friends, to play, eat, all those things, and come home on a bike, not use a car. So that is what the Transportation Alternative Program is about, getting some other options besides cars. This is kind of what we are chipping away at with ours, and Inkster is using Wayne County millage money. We do put millage money into other communities and their projects. Inkster is choosing to use that money to apply for TAP grants and do work on Wayne County property, Wayne County Parks property. So it's a great partnership. Jerome's been great to work with Lower Rouge Greenway project as a whole, as well as the other communities. from Canton, Wayne, Inkster, Dearborn Heights. Miss anybody? Dearborn, and then going to the main channel of the Rouge River, where we're connecting in to the Detroit River, to Malvindale,
Allen Park.
Allen Park. Yeah, we can list.
So in theory, you'd be able to get on this one, and kind of go a lot of places around southeast Michigan, and technically, would be ways that you could get on a trail here, work your way, and end up at the
Joe Louis Greenway.
Greenway, or eventually you'll end up at the bridge.
Or the Iron Bell Trail gets you to Iron Harbor in the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula.
So in theory, you could ride your bike, not today, not tomorrow, but soon you could just say, I'm gonna go out for an afternoon and I'm just gonna go for a little bike ride. End up at the Mackinac Bridge.
But you can, so you're going towards the Detroit River, towards a lot of work going on to get you to the Detroit River, to Detroit Trail Systems, to the to Joe Louis Greenway. Over here, 275 Greenway Trail is going to come up. This creates a really cool triangle with 275, Lower Rouge, and Hines. Because Hines or the Middle Rouge, will come together here. So there's a lot, and that is again 270. Yeah, it's connected to the Iron Belt. It's all connected. So a lot of cool stuff. These are some of the images of kind of how to make that even more than what we just started. Like, connectivity is great. Just going to take some boardwalks. It's going to take, and then having the access points to the water, combining the water trail. So this is open greenway space because it is the Lower Rouge River. So getting access, whether we're using our credit card and just able to rent a kayak out of a box and you put it in the next box down the river, that'd be great if we get there. If we have some really cool livery services, or Friends of the Rouge is doing a lot of things. So that's where we're trying to get. Restoring some bridges. I think that might be Colonial.
I think so.
So that's a new bridge. That's phase 2 of the Lower Rouge Greenway that we got done first before phase 1, or phase 1A, not phase 1B. So a lot of these things coming together, but John had said it earlier, if we do the habitat work, if we make some access to the river and things, people are going to want to get there. So in a way, we do have to protect the work that we're doing and direct people and just make it clear. We don't have to say signs, don't come in here. We have to say, please enjoy from this point, and allow the habitat to do cool habitat, ecosystem things, allow water to be filtered and be cleaner for our neighbors downriver, but enjoy it from these areas. So we want to be very intentional throughout Wayne County parks with activating some really tight areas and then preserving the rest of the areas within the park system, but providing a lot of places to activate, to recreate within nature, and then still allowing the pathways and all the connected trails that allow you to get into and really enjoy nature, to get those, to be able to relax and just be out in nature and not have to go. There are stretches in here that you're floating down on a canoe or a kayak. You can't hear any of the road. The roads aren't far away, but you're down in the river valley, and you could pretend you're in the Osable River or a nice river system up north, and you can breathe for a little bit, and then you got to go back to work. You got to do all that stuff, but it gives you a time, and then connecting people.
Just drop that part in.
And then connecting to people is important too. Connection to nature is important, but putting the bridge back, as well as looking, there's some other connections through here that we want to look at. There are some tributaries and water systems that are a great asset. They're also a barrier to forget, because your friend might be here and you can see him over here. You can't get there without a bridge. So, we do have to make some ways to get across those things. So we are looking at that, because that access is not just access there, but it's access to the park. And then the more people get together, have communal spaces, shared spaces that they care about, that they can play and recreate in, the less, the more healthy the community is going to be, the less, there's plenty of studies out there of the more you get people outside, cardiovascular, all those health list things, everything improves on a lot of different criteria. And a lot of that's just being connected to people, being connected to nature, being outside, recreating. And we want to make sure that layer is put on top of the habitat stuff, because that is the bulk of this project, and where the money's coming from is to deal with the AOC issues, to create the habitat. And if we're going to do it, we're going to make this beautiful habitat. We got the butterflies that Jason's talking about. Let's let some people go. Tell them, stand right here, and then let the butterflies and the plant. There is, foot traffic is not great for some native plants and some wet meadows and things like that. So we're deliberately telling people this is where you can walk, this is where you can view it from, and let nature, let the birds, the bees, and butterflies and all that happen from that point. But providing plenty of recreation. On that people piece is also probably towards the boardwalk piece, and just talking to Inkster, we want to make sure we know you guys have the Greenway Trail. You're also, I think this week we got brought into some conversations about where the amphitheater's going, on what side of Inkster Road now. But I think we definitely want to have those conversations on, how Inkster's recreational plan, community asset plan, how that's tying in, as well as the private business stuff. That boardwalk on South River Drive, there's a great opportunity with the new athletic facility. What's the name of it? The big blue building.
Yeah, ICA.
Yeah.
I saw it on Google, is Willie's Grill or something. There's someone selling food inside there, and Inkster has a plan to, that's the center. That's the Inkster Downtown Development Plan is right there. Like, on the but I mean, this is it. Let's not think of the park system as something that doesn't fit in that plan or as a barrier to it, or let's blur that line. Let's allow, if you got businesses in the downtown development plan going on right here, let's buy a coffee there and have a very dedicated spot with cafe, bistro, seating, and all that hangs out over the park, that has now been redone with beautiful flowers and a native meadow and all that down below. And then if you want to take your coffee and walk down the strolling path through the flowers and find your way to the playground, and at some point even maybe that strolling path didn't quite get there, but art installations on a path, more information about why we did all this habitat work, who's benefiting, how's the environment benefiting, or fitness. That didn't get on here either. We had a few different concept plans, but again, getting people out, getting people, have a running trail. If a running trail has some pull-up bars or, a different version of fitness equipment along it, those are all things that, some of those questions I think are captured, most of them in the survey, so we definitely want that feedback there. But these are all things those are all the extra layers that make it more important, more something you want to, keep investing in, and, they can both habitat, environment, ecosystem functions, recreation, that can all happen together, very symbolically, so symbiotic. So that's most of the Wayne County piece on there.
Sweet. Carmen?
Cool. Well, we want to really thank you guys for coming out today. If you didn't have an opportunity to sign in when you came in, please do. That way we can make sure we have your email address and we can get you a copy of the presentation. Also, if you didn't have an opportunity to complete the survey, we'd love for you to complete the survey and turn this in to us. We've gotten about 15 of those back in print form, but we've got about 35 or so online returned to us. So it's really good. So we'll continue to work with the City of Inkster and the task force on trying to proliferate the survey and getting as much feedback from the community as possible, so that how you feel, the things you want to be expressed as a part of this project are manifested. So if you have any questions of the team.
One more thing. So, Herman, the survey is, you go to it through the,
Yeah, there's a landing page on our website,
Rouge.
for therouge.org. Building the Rouge Gateway Greenway is the daughter window where you can find that. And it's also on the Seat of Inkster's website as well.
so let your neighbors know about it as well. And we will have another meeting probably
In October, mid-October, we're planning
So-
for another meeting, and that one will be on a Saturday at the Inkster Recreation Center.
So, look, you're welcome to come back and hear us talk about the same stuff again, or you may have thought something in between and like, now I actually can. So, but let your neighbors and others in the community know. We haven't set the date, but it'll be sometime towards the end of October.
I made one. It's on the flyer.
So
I think it's on the flyer.
that's the way you continue to keep feeding information to us as we go through this process. And again, we're gonna get all this amenity, what we call amenity things, knocked out so that one thing about grants and going and trying to find money, the closer you are to actually building something,
It's on the flyer.
the better chance you have of getting money, because they're like, you took the time and effort to get everything ready. Yeah, exactly. It's like you went and laid things out however you got there. A lot of times the city or the county does it on their own time with their own staff or others, but then it's like you've got it, and then people like seeing things put in, right? Because then they can go and point to it. It's like people who give money out, like, oh, see that rock there? I paid to have that rock there versus, I paid for this plan. It's not all that exciting. Some of us it's exciting, but a lot of people don't think.
Is this construction funding question?
Well, no, we were just talking about how, right now, at the beginning, we were talking from the standpoint of, this is the design money. The EPA has said, it's low priority when it comes to. But using other mechanisms is what we're saying.
Shovel ready is a term for many grant projects. And if we have the construction documents ready to go, that puts it on a much higher priority or competitive. It's much more competitive.
It's better scoring. Yeah.
Whether it's trust fund or there's plenty of them, whether it's PEACE because that funding source wants to fund pathway versus whatever other piece versus the boat launch. This gives us that opportunity to get this all designed with your input. Definitely gives us a competitive.
And we'll look at again whether it's grants or some of the foundations and stuff. Have been trying to call it buy down, but they're use up their foundation grants. Her foundation's plan is to give away all their money in the next 10 years, and so there's opportunities out there. And again, as John said, having these construction plans ready to build something puts us in a good position. So yes.
Well, I'm an AARP, so I always think of stuff for us.
Yep.
And to keep community engaged, well, we would feel part of this. Were you doing those things right there?
Oh, the ledge stones, yeah.
Yeah. If you could make them a certain way that the city of Harvard, like I would want to dedicate a stone to like my aunt or my uncle, where you could put your name on it, or instead of making it, well, you can't. Well, I don't know how. You know how they put your name. Have something like that, and of course, the citizens could do that also, and that would make us feel part of. Because I'm like with age friendly, because I like to see all age groups doing stuff together. Because then you would be surprised how younger people, they'll come up to me when they know to have my brace on, or they'll see me stumble, and they'll say, "Oh, can I help you?" Well, come on, let me help you. And I'm like, sometimes I say, no, I'm fine. They say, no, come on, let me watch that, watch that so you don't trip. So if you can get age friendly and everybody in there to do it and have our, like our names or family names on something like that, or plant a tree and have something around the tree that says this is so-and-so's tree.
Yeah.
You know, it can generate money, but also it can make the community feel like they're part of it.
Yeah, their legacy, basically they become legacy to the park.
We currently have 2 dedication tree, we have a dedication tree and bench program. So you can purchase, or you can fill out the form, go through, and you can donate a tree or a bench to Wayne County Parks. Currently, Nankin also has, Nankin Mills on Hines Drive also has a donor program, and we will be redoing. So there will be a plaza with some brick engraving, similar to what you're talking about. So this could be another place that we could incorporate. We haven't had that program before, but we are looking into it for a build out of Nankin Mills as well. So it would be not, but currently, if you are looking at, I mean, there is the bench and tree dedication memorial program available for Wayne County
Mine
Parks.
is somewhere, I have no idea where they put them, place I never heard it before. But anyway, I want one where I know where it is.
Yeah.
My family can go and say, oh,
That was-
my granny did that, not in, I don't know where they put it, a place I never even heard it before.
No, yeah, the program would allow, you would select your site,
Okay.
and we would work with you for where that is. Select your tree species, or the bench is our standard bench, but obviously you get a plaque on it and all that.
Which along the pathway and stuff, there will be, as Jason was saying, there's gonna be kind of bump outs and stuff, seatings that might be, something that could be interchanged with that aspect is, no, this is the bench and this is, I said, this is my granny's bench, or this is, my dad's bench, or we used to come, to this. I know a lot of families that are centric around the community and particularly park systems. It's like, I went and played catch with my dad. I went and threw stones in the river with my dad, or, my mom took me down there and saw my
You got
first-
past tense really quick. They do become memorial benches most of the time. It's mostly, but you can dedicate it to your grandchildren as well. They put other names. I've seen those options out there as well. So.
Or perhaps to institutions that the city of Inkster may have lost, like some of its high schools, which had rich traditions, a big rock that celebrates the tradition of those high schools or something like that. That becomes a gathering space, for the community as well. So, excellent ideas.
But that was sort of, mine was kind of like what I was trying to get away to compact down the checklist, like this survey, because a lot of people I'm around, we are like 45 and up. So I tell them, go on, I don't want to do that. They think, oh, well, you just go, you find out. Younger people are more computer literate.
Right.
So I was wondering if it was something I could even like,
Do we have any?
The surveys are here at the city too?
Yeah.
yeah, like
I haven't
pass
dropped a
out,
few
try
when I was
to
going
get
to.
them,
Yeah, if you want to take some.
like that, yeah, like a feedback, because when I said about this meeting, oh, well, they've been saying they want to do this, and I'm like, well, you gotta go and find out, what is going on.
Right.
You can't just sit back and, so if they had like a paper in their hand, like me, like I like this better, I don't wanna go online.
Right.
To be honest, I want a piece like that, I wanna look at it and say, yeah, see, they're talking about rocks like that, trees and bridges. I wanna see a visual in my hand versus having to go click. That's just not the same.
We have some at the recreation center, and we're working on putting them in the towers
You know what I
too.
mean?
Like the
Here,
yeah.
this is what they're trying to do. I won't say doing because they don't like, but here's what's in the plan.
Yeah.
Like a brochure type of thing I can pass out. Even not so much as questions, but
Yeah, no, the flyers got a little bit of that.
or sort of like this.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying, is
Yeah.
we're gonna try to get that out to more. It's here, the community center, and I know, like, it's not a lot of the community events. Herman and them have been taking them at the farmer's market and stuff,
Like that.
and handing them out there, so that, to your point,
Right.
give me a piece.
Yeah.
As much as everybody doesn't like paper and stuff, I'm like, and she's fine, because she knows that this is true. They love doing everything on computers. So I'm like, give me a big sheet of paper,
I
let
can
me point
point,
to
I
it.
can
Yep.
say,
I'm like,
yeah.
here, right here on this.
Not go click, www. They're not gonna even try that.
They just look at me like, you old fart. Not you, me.
I'm joining with you, the old part of them too, because, yeah, just be like a,
Yep, I'm a, give me something
yeah, I
in my
can't find the word I'm
hands.
looking for. It's gonna hit me in the car, but
Tangible, I want
there it
tangible.
is. I need to touch it.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay. That was a.
See, there's more people out there than that,
Like
than
old
just me.
farts.
Yeah.
When you see the old fart dedication rock, you know.
That's right, we'll get our own bench out there.
Yeah. I'll take that. But anyway.
But yeah, please feel free, like, again, like I said, there's a lot of, they're getting out to a lot of the events, you know, kind of tell your neighbors and stuff if they go to any of the community events to kind of, you know, be aware, you know, because you kind of told them, hey, they're out talking about this, and that way, you know, it may be the farmer's market, oh, I want to go to the farmer's market, and it's like, but you kind of said, oh, you know, they're talking, you know, they may be there talking about it, so as they go to get their, you know, vegetables and stuff, it's like, oh, I want to go stop by and see Herman and see what, you know, what's really going on, so let them know, and we'll also, like I said, get the next one out. They will send you the presentation, so you can have it on your community. You'll have to click on the computer to get it, but
I want to stack up paper.
yeah. But and then we'll have the next one out as well. So and at any time if you feel you got any questions, or feel free to reach out to us.
I have another one.
Yes.
Earlier this year, I helped with Friends of the Rouge clean up off Rouge River and Spinoza. So how do we get a group to clean up Inkster Park in Columbia? Who do I, you know, say, hey, can we meet the last Saturday or whatever and help clean it up, just paper and bottles?
Yeah, absolutely. You can coordinate that with us. We have an entire restoration team that's dedicated to park cleanups, invasive species removal, native tree plantings. And then through our trails program, we actually do log jam work days where we go out into the river in waders, waist high, and actually cut logs and open up like 6 to 8 foot paths for canoes and kayaks. So there's work to do and plenty of opportunities. So I'll make a note that you have an interest and some connections to get us some bodies. That's awesome.
Excuse me, ma'am. Inkster Beautification Committee.
That's
Just have to go in City Hall.
Okay.
We dropped them off.
Yes, I'm on that. I'm on that. So when you let your own, anyway, of areas that he will let us know. Fourth Saturday of every month, the end of every month. We go to whatever areas they tell us, that they let us know, and we do. We pick up, and we can't pick up nothing heavy now. We are old.
Yeah, it was just.
We pick up like paper and the bottles, and they have these big. Hey, you know, but we can put stuff in, but if you would let him know the area that you passed and you see really needs work, if you let us know, then we will make sure that we get that area clean. Because some of that's adopted park, but and it'll give us areas to drive back. I shouldn't say, stop saying drive back. We go and look at the area, so we'll know at our meetings, oh, we need to focus on this, and a group of us will make sure that, you know, we'll do our
That's
best to try to
exactly
make sure that the area gets clean.
Okay, Inkster beautification. Sounds good.
So again, I really do appreciate you taking the time in the evening. You know, again, it's the evening. A lot of people. It's a nice day. It's one of those of it's been raining for a few days, and then it's kind of a nice day, and you're like, I don't want to go hang out at City Hall, but I do really appreciate the feedback and the dialogue. And I like, you know, it may not seem like, oh, there's only a few people. No, I actually like it because I get to basically talk to you instead of stand up here behind a podium and talk to the masses. So I get more out of that, and I think it makes for better, a lot of times, dialogues. A lot of people think, oh, you know, I just went to, you know, 5 or 6 or 10 people there. It wasn't that big a deal. Actually, to us, it is, because right, it's much more, like I said, of a dialogue versus a stand here and give a presentation and then kind of answer a few questions and everybody goes home. It's like, no, and being able to talk with you all definitely helps us understand things much better and allows us to plan what's going on in the park much better as well. So,
I appreciate you guys.
thank you. Like I said, we've, you know, it's interesting because like I said, all this habitat stuff was that was the impetus of all of it. But then it was like, you know what? We got all these people living in these, where we're building all this. We need to get them interacting with it because it's one thing to build it, you know, but it's, again, the health aspects of, you know, communities and people on it, but also the just, I'll say ownership of it. You guys, we build stuff, we do this, and, you know, I don't live in the community. I'm gonna go to my community, right? And I'm gonna help pick stuff up there and, you know, do things there. So it's like one of those of this, we turn the keys over. And by having people who are vested, that have an interest in that type of stuff, it makes us feel good that we're turning the keys over to the, you know, to the right people. And it's like, we're not gonna come back in, you know, 10 years and go, well, we tried, you know, this way. When there's people that show up like this, that tells us, yeah, there's people in the community that have a vested interest in making sure this stays, once we do what we do, that it stays a integral part of the community. So.
Now, I'll let you know how, my children, my son especially, we used to walk, well, I live on the middle of the side, so we used to walk where the house down there used to be a little trail down the lower Rouge River. And they used to walk down, it was a bigger stream because anyway, he used to walk down there and play with the frogs, and one guy did like the guy's legs, I'm scared of snakes. Anyway, whatever kind of, and we used to walk around along that trail. And even today, he says, no, you can't kill flies, you can't kill this, you can't kill this. No, Mom, you can't stop them rabbits from being in the yard. You can't stop them, you know, you can't stop nothing because remember they used to run around in the yard. So when children, when they grow up, seeing the outside, seeing the nature, and being able to
interact with it.
Yeah, they learn. And even now, my grandson, my great-grandson, he comes out, so we buy him this scientific book, whatever this thing is. And he went out in the yard trying to catch bugs. Well, he got upset with me because he said, Granny, you keep talking and you're scaring the bugs. So, but I just said that to when children, when they grow up in nature and can walk around and interact with it, they end up being appreciating nature better.
Yeah, they have a better care for the environment too.
And they don't go, they don't sit there and just toss stuff out the car and stuff.
Yeah, I'm heavy on that.
I mean, you go back to, I always say, you know, it was the 1970s when they had, you know, the messages on, when there was just TV.
Yeah.
So there was a time when you only had one box, little rabbit ears came off of it. But it was like it was the end on the highway, and there was the Indian, there was the public service announcer, and he was just standing there, and the car went down, and, you know, I think they threw a beer can or a cigarette butt out the window, and it landed right at the Indian's feet, and then the tear came down. I still remember that from back in the 70s, and that's kind of, you know, to your point, that's by them being there sitting. No, they're not the one that's driving down the street tossing stuff out, because they've now experienced their community in a different, you know, a different light, that they see how beautiful it actually is.
So I'm glad you're making it where now you can walk, because just make it safe, because I can't walk somewhere can't anybody see.
Yeah.
So, I gotta feel safe, because I might feel 3 times since I feel down the hall.
Well, that's one thing, to be to that point though, that's Jerome, shame on you.
What I do?
No, it wasn't his fault, it was mine.
No, what I'm saying is, but that is a very important point, because a lot of people just want to pinpoint, especially, you know, nature is scary to some people, right? It's like, so that's one thing in working with the county on that, any of these paths and stuff, there's 10-foot buffers on both sides, so that, yeah, it isn't like, oh yeah, I like nature, but I don't want anything running out, you know, even if it's a rabbit, right? It comes out of the, the grasses and it's like, right, you're like, whoa!
Yeah.
So at least, and that was one thing we learned, is to make sure we're having 10 foot on both sides. So there is that feeling of, okay, I do feel safer in that it isn't something just gonna pop out, type thing, and I can see where things are, so it is important.
Yes.
Boogeyman.
And so we were just talking about the colonial section. So yeah, you are across the street, from Inkster Park. You're talking about going behind the CSO. You're crossing Inkster Road into Colonial Park, and currently it ends at Justine Street at the cul-de-sac. Justine.
So
It's
closer
not
to
to
the
middle.
phase 3 that we're going to be starting
Right now it stops here.
at Justine.
That's like the trailer park
Right,
that off Michigan Avenue.
right.
So
So,
if you don't know where Justine is, you have to say.
Yeah, so this is again, so Inkster Park, Colonial Park, we
so
have
right
the,
across the street from Stratford.
It goes
Yeah,
down that
concrete,
way.
right?
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, that goes down.
so
That's
this,
Justine.
and then,
And phase 3
That's
will go from Justine through the golf course across up to Middle, behind the rec center.
it actually, it gets to Middle Belt, so it's behind the golf course here, all behind, this is all the golf course up here. And then it goes up Middle Belt. So it's connect, so if you're at the community center here, those are those connections that we're trying to let people walk into the park. You don't have to get in your car and drive and find a parking lot. If you're at the community center, you can walk down on the brand new pathway that Jerome's working on, and you can connect into this completed part, and eventually, we're putting in this section we just awarded for our TAP grant section. This is Vinoy Dorsey Park.
Oh, really?
So Vinoy Dorsey Park will have a trail that goes from Vinoy Road to Merriman Road. Inkster's working on this gap. This is actually the golf course, which will actually not be that hard of a gap to accomplish. We're going to be some shared use stuff with the golf course, and then the next part that we will probably apply for after we complete construction here will get you to Wayne City Hall.
Yeah.
So we got to get across we got at least one more bridge or a wetland to deal with, but we'll get to Wayne City Hall. And now Wayne City Hall is connected. Vinoy currently, you have that long, and then it's a dead end. Now it's a greenway that people, or once this is constructed, you'll be able to get from one end to the other, where we just built 2 boat launches. So
And
some of these things we could check. We've accomplished some of these things. There's a boat launch here, a boat launch here. The greenway will be connecting them. We're working with the Jefferson Barnes Community Vitality Center to this interesting shape for this neighborhood here is the Norwayne neighborhood, way off topic. They had a big contribution to World War II, the Willow Run plant. They were building the bomber there. Soldiers returned from war, were able to have housing after people left the plants and didn't need to be there anymore. It has a huge history. So we got a Rosie the Riveter sculpture that was just installed, and we're going to create a plaza. And I had the pre-bid meeting today, actually, for that project.
And that was another of the big habitat projects was in Vinoy. So again, trying to, we'd love to do them every place, but we can't. So when we have these big open areas, which parks tend to be one of the better at, so we'll do it. And then we interacted, obviously with Wayne County, working on some, again, as they were planning the other trail, there's some other things there that will interact people with the habitat there. So yeah, being able to move up and down the corridor is the intent. So again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming, and no
Thank you,
worries.
guys.
Yeah.
I'll be in touch.
And again, spread the word.
Yeah.
I'll make a note.
All right.
Wrong or know how to get over this. Amen.
Very good.
Actually, you know how to get a hold of my wife better than me, which I can hide out behind my wife. But thank you very much, and if anything pops into your brain, please feel free to let it out to us, and we take all information seriously, because we don't live here, so we got ideas, but are they the right ones, or can they be shaped a little differently? So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, how y'all been doing?
Yes,
How's the art been doing?
it's been fun.